Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Pele Yoetz. Today we're talking about guest, and it's not too lengthy of a chapter, but we're going to get into it because it is a little bit longer than some. So we're going to get right in. It says the mitzvah of hospitality is a very great mitzvah, and it was counted among those things on which a person eats their fruits in this world, and the principle remains intact for them in Olam Haba. And of course, we read this every morning. These are the fruits the person enjoys in this world, and the Olam Haba, acts of kindness, one of them. And that includes, being hospitable to guests. And it says, fortunate is the man who's capable of fulfilling this mitzvah when he has the asset of his own home. He performs a great act of kindness because the kindness value increases according to the dire need of the recipient of his pain. So it states, an example is given, behold, if a man comes to a city and he is poor, so poor that he can't afford a place to lodge, or it is beneath his dignity for him to stay at a hotel, or the city does not have a hotel, what can such a man do if no one lets him stay in his home, and he is like an outsider? Whom shall he turn for assistance? So it says that when one finds a man who's willing to gather him into his home, the man will surely thrive. Therefore, it's considered a great mitzvah. According to the greatness of the mitzvah, he will provide satisfaction to his maker and receive a reward. So, this is this happens a lot commonly, especially when you have people who are traveling here from Eretz Israel or vice versa, who are in Hutz La'aretz and they go to Eretz Israel. And, there are many people who have homes that are large enough to accommodate a guest. Especially if it's a Rav who's coming in to do a shir, whatever it is that person needs to do and accomplish in that city where he cannot find lodging. And let's say he's going to a secular city, and there's plenty of those everywhere where they don't have kosher hotels or, and someone offers up their home because, it would be beneath this person's dignity to stay in such a place and to be seen in such a place. So it is a great reward to the person who can host them. And of course, for sure, they will be mimicking our forefather Avraham Avinu. So it says, consequently, the yoke of the guest should be light in his eyes, and let him bear the yoke, and he will not be diminished. Fortunate is the man who loves God. Be hospitable to your guests. They should feel as if they're at home. As the old Spanish saying goes, mi casa es su casa. And it says, according to the abundance of his love, no effort or expenditure is too great, and when it gives pleasure to his maker. So it's already been said, the introduction to the halavavot that is included in the attribute of caution is not to be overcautious, as written in Kohelet at 7:16. Don't be too righteous, therefore a person must be careful in the matter. Written in the book of Ben Sirah in the Yevamot 63a, you should not bring every person into your home. So for sure, just because it's a mitzvah to be kind, know who you're bringing in your home. If you don't know this person and you can't, like maybe you don't know the person, but you can't get proper references, or you can't get, a proper statement as to their character from somebody you yourself know, and I mean that you yourself know, then it's not a good idea to bring this person in. And the Sefer states that if you know that a man is not a good person, do not allow him into your house, especially if an individual has only one small house for his wife and his children. It is a sin to accept a guest into the house to sleep. Again, with the Torah, of course, there's always balances. Be hospitable, but not to the point where you're putting your family in danger, or that you're, imposing such a hardship for them. So it says, likewise, when a person receives a guest in his home, he must protect all of his belongings from him in order that they should not become suspect of him, and anything in the house is missing. So in other words, don't even put a stumbling block for them. If you have people in your home, just, gently tuck away your valuables if you can, or things that lock your room, or whatever it is that you need to do for that particular situation, then you must do it. So don't even, this way you're not even, heaven forbid, let's say your kid goes into your room and he moves something and you don't want to be suspicious. It was the guest. So you have to be careful. But so it says, our sages declared in Derek Eretz, Rabbah Perek 5, a person should suspect every man as if he's a thief, and honor him as if he was Rabban Gamliel. So it's funny, I used to work for a judge who kind of had a saying that was very similar, and he said, trust yet verify. So this is kind of the same attitude we have to have. We trust, yet we verify, and we don't create stumbling blocks. So it says, Avot de Rabbi Natan relates an incident with Rabbi Yeshua, who received a guest, and he said that he fed him, gave him a drink, escorted him to the attic to sleep, and then removed the ladder from its place. In the middle of the night, the guest got up and stole everything that was in the attic. When he attempted to come down, he fell and he broke his leg. And Rabbi Yeshua said to him, our sages anticipated that the likes of you, and said a person should suspect every man as if he's a thief. It is better whenever possible that the wife of the host should not leave the house because of the guest, especially when she is dressed up. It incites the Yetzirah within him, and perhaps he will not be saved from inappropriate thoughts. Moreover, there's additional damage when the wife is driven out of the house by the guest and does not sit at the dining room table with her husband, and that hosting the guest will become an extreme burden, and they will be impatient for the moment he departs. So the guest will also cringe and think, how is it that because of me, the wife of the host is barred from the home of her pleasure? For example, for eating with her husband. Therefore, every wise man must act with ingenuity and choose the upright path according to the nature of his guest. That is what's right in his eyes he must do. So not every situation will call from the same, the same reaction. You don't want to make a guest feel uncomfortable, but you don't want, again, the members of your household to also feel uncomfortable. It has to make sense. And if for whatever reason, this particular guest, it's not for you to host, then maybe Hashem had someone else in mind, and that's okay. But just know that Hashem also looks at your desire to want to accommodate. He also takes that into consideration. So you shouldn't feel as you're totally missing out on this mitzvah. And it says, one of the major conditions for the proper fulfillment of this mitzvah of hosting guests is to receive every person with a pleasant countenance. So of course, again, making them feel welcome. Do not make them feel like, when are you leaving? How long are you here for? They should always feel welcomed in your home. And some people it's harder to do than others. And I think sometimes some people overstay their welcome. So, and I think it will tackle that. But, we should always make them feel as if they're kings in a palace, And it says, it is more important, desired and preferred in the eyes of God, a man to serve parched bread with good and giving eye, than to feed someone with stuffed pheasant with an angry face. So, again, even if you're just inviting them over for, the equivalent today might be, a few hors d'oeuvres. Better to do it. You have a great time, great conversation, than to be, you're hosting a whole dinner party and you feel like you couldn't care less for that person or if they were there at your table. So it says, if it is difficult for one to make such large expenses due to his inadequate income or lack of spirit, he should not spend a lot, nor should he let his Yetzirah deceive him to thinking that in order to invite a guest, one must make outlandish preparations. Some women who are very miserly towards guests say to their husband that everything that is in the house is insufficient to entertain guests properly, and compel their husbands to increase the stock of all their foodstuffs in their house. So this is really big in Spanish culture for sure. I think, I always say Persians are very much like the Spanish culture in a lot of things, and I think this is one of them. We always have to cook like we're feeding an army. There'll be 2 people that are coming, and we are going to cook everything, every recipe that our imas gave us. We're going to cook every single thing. So, we have to be careful with that too. We don't want to make it such a hardship again, because then you don't want it that your own husband would be like, every time we invite a person over, it's like a simcha. It becomes this big, and it should be a simcha, but not like, it's not a Yom Tiv. It's not, something, it's not Rosh Hashanah, so you want to be able to have them over again and have everyone in the household be happy about it. So it says that they say that it is wrong to honor guests at the expense of embarrassment. And as a result, they refrain from inviting any guests at all. This is surely the advice of the Yetzirah, to prevent the performance of this great mitzvah and the good which would accrue to the host. Therefore, it's difficult for him to make such a major expense. He should not spend more than he's accustomed in order to hosting the guests and not be burdened unto him. So, again, a lot of times I think we start out with the right intention. We want to do the right thing, and we just make it so grandiose. And in the end, we end up losing out anyway, and we don't get the full benefit of the mitzvah. So it says, This is not an embarrassment, but an honor. The guest is pleased that the host has not made exorbitant expenditures on his behalf, and consequently doesn't feel that he has given him a financial burden. So again, a lot of times we don't want to also make the guests feel that by going through this outlandish and over-the-top welcoming, it also causes an embarrassment to that person, especially if they're not going to be able to eat every single thing. Then they feel like somehow that they're burdening you because you've spent all this money. So we really have to be careful. It does come from a great place, but just we have to be careful. I think we're, again, especially in our generation, we're so so used and accustomed to grandiose gestures, and we like everything in excess, and this can become a problem. So it says, to the extent that he sees that the host has made excessive purchases, he cringes when he thinks of how much effort his host is making to please him, and is worried that in the end he will be a burden. However, he is pleased when he sees that the host is not making any excessive purchases for him. The host satiates him with the kind words of his lips and alleviates the hunger of his soul, so that he eats bread with joy and drinks his water with a good heart. So isn't this true, right? Sometimes it's just good. Listen, can we just have tea and a little cake, and have a great conversation again? Sometimes don't you feel like you can go to somebody's house and you can do without all of the fanfare and the food? So, it's, again, it's better to have sometimes just a little bit. And that doesn't mean if there's a special occasion, of course, you go out. That's the time to do all your Ima's recipes. But sometimes I think we just, every meeting becomes this huge meeting. So it says, including the scope of this mitzvah, is that even if one harbors anger or pain in his heart because of some related reason, he must remove the anger from his heart only to show his guest of shining countenance, so that the guest not think that he's perturbed when his parents do to him. So sometimes this is also the thing. If you're not, for every reason, if you're tired or if something, that's happened with someone else has upset you, perhaps that's not the time to have a guest over, because then somehow the guest may perceive that it's because of them that you're upset, and it can cause problems. So, be of good cheer, and, be careful in this area. So it says the saying of our sages in Yalkut Shimoni, Yeshayahu 58 is well known. One who gives a poor man charity is blessed with 6 blessings. Yet one who appeases him with a bracha is blessed with 11 blessings. So, instead of 6, get 11. If you even add just one word of kindness that elevates this person's soul on whom you're bestowing the tzedakah, it's a greater mitzvah to you. So it says, he should never remove from his thinking the greatness of the mitzvah and its reward, in order that it should not become a burden to him, and he will perform with extra fondness. And at the time of his guest's departure, he must supply him with all his provisions for the journey, proportioned to God's blessing upon him. And he should accompany him with his leaves. By virtue of all this, God will bless his endeavors. So a lot of times this is those goodie bags, send them off with, you ever notice it's not just when you're cooking with love for your family that your family notices, but when you're cooking for love with your guests, and then you send them home with that love, and it just becomes like a continued mitzvah, because when they go in and they, have more of the food that you gave them, it just reminds them of the happy time that you spent together, and it really does give a hizuk for their soul. And it really boosts them up, and they will have fond memories, and they will bless you all over again. So it's like it's the gift that keeps on giving for a while. So it says one of the requirements of the guest is that he should not burden his host, and if it's possible for someone to stay in a hotel, he should not request to lodge by a local resident. Even if he's invited, he should not acquiesce unless his host implores him to stay, in order that he knows for sure that it is with a full heart that he's invited, and not because of embarrassment. So again, even as the guest, we also have to be careful. We don't want to impose on somebody's hospitality, and we don't want to assume that when we're coming to a new place, especially one where there is somewhere we can stay, we can't just assume that we will, have a place to stay in someone's home. If that person at that point comes and says, I insist, you must stay with us, then that's different. And then, at that point, have a great time. But we have to be careful also about overstaying our welcome. and just really taking advantage of someone's, again, their kindness. So it says, it is considered tantamount to stealing from anyone to receive benefit from his friend that is not given with a full heart, but due to shame. So in other words, like if we've kind of shamed someone into, putting us up or whatever have you, it is considered in Shemaim like we have stolen from them. So it says, also, one must pay or stay with a host. I'm sorry, let me just read that again. Also, when one must stay with a host, he should not extend his visit for too long, right? We know this very well. Don't overstay your welcome. An overextended visit is definitely a burden, and if there's a necessity for him to stay in the city for a long period of time, he should not stay by his host constantly if there's a hotel. So in other words, like if especially if you're going to be in for 2 weeks or so, maybe part of that time stay in a hotel, and part of that time stay with the host. But don't overstay your welcome. Very easy to do. And again, a lot of times people, they tell us things out of respect, out of Derek Eretz, and out of just, good manners. But the truth is, don't overstay your welcome. That's the number one way to make problems. So it says, if he anticipated that it would be a short stay and then it was extended, he must find an intelligible and wise excuse to transfer to a hotel or to someone else's home in such a way that it should not hurt his host nor be defamed. So, sometimes you're in for a business deal and you're staying with somebody, or you're here for whatever reason, and things extend and it happens. You can kindly tell your host, I don't want to be in an imposition. I've already just relied on your graciousness for too long, and I don't want to become a burden. And therefore, I'd like to go over to a hotel, which I know, and you can also throw in staying there for sure would be subpar. But nevertheless, I don't want to be in a position on your hospitality. And it states that even during the time that he is staying at his host's home, he must not profusely frequent the house. Rather, he must go here and there in such a fashion that is not a burden to anyone. Again, if at all possible, if you're staying in a home for whatever reason, let's say you're going out to do a lecture or something, and the place has small children, 11, 12, 1 in the morning, probably not a great time to be showing up to the house. You have to be careful. You have a lot of Derek Eretz, even though they're treating you like a king. The truth is that we're not the king. So we have to also look at them as well as the king, and that they're bestowing a great kindness upon us. So it says, he must not cross-examine his host or ask about the business of his personal belongings. As the saying goes, mind your P's and Q's. I think sometimes it is very easy, I think, in this generation of information. We feel we must know about everything, about everyone at all times, and that's just simply not the case. And I think maybe that's the reason why modesty is an issue in our generation, because we're so used to letting everything all hang out, as the saying goes, and we're not used to concealing things. So it says, if he has the means and is not a lack of respect to his host, he should also open his hand to buy the needs of a meal. So in other words, also insist, I would like to treat you and your family to a meal, or to, host the preparations, and I'd like to cook you one of my ima's, recipes, and I'd like to buy all this stuff. So, again, with graciousness, be careful about it, but also offer as well. And so it says, he must increase the honor of his hosts and his family, and he must display longing and genuine affection for the host children. If again, show kavod to everyone, including the children. And if children's not for you, perhaps you should not stay with someone who has children. So it says, his mouth should be filled with the host's praise, and he should give him his bracha. And the time of his leaving, he should give some token of appreciation to the host and his wife. After his journey is ended, he should send them a letter. By following this protocol, his visit will be considered a pleasant experience. So again, this is a real big lesson in Musar and Derek Eretz. And it says that it is also incumbent upon the charity administrators to oversee the care of visitors to the city, and according to the statutes of the individual, provide him with lodging in accordance with his dignity among local residents on the rotating basis. It is the custom in many places to send the guests to a hotel rather than a private home. If so, they must prepare accommodations for the cold winter, pillows, blankets, even ones filled with straw, necessary home utensils, and even earthenware. So, again, This was written in a time, thankfully, we don't have pillows with straw, Baruch Hashem. Provide him with the things that he needs. It says they must amply provide his daily meals with a pleasant consonance. And it's better to provide a week's supply at a time. When the guest departs, it is proper to give him provisions for the journey according to his status and the means of the community. So one should not be excessively stingy. By doing so, one is sinning for no real gain. And therefore, a person should weigh his words with careful consideration and calm the guest with good words for the honor of God as he stands by the right of the unfortunate. So it says, the travail of their search for bread and their being deprived and destitute is more than enough heartache. Whoever bestows good upon them, it is tantamount to giving to Hashem. So if you know somebody is going through a hard time, give to them in a way that also gives them respect. And don't be stingy with them, because the truth is that Hashem, you're giving to Hashem. This is a chesed unto Hashem, and it is a great kindness. And considering all the kindnesses that Hashem gives to us, and the fact that it is Hashem who puts you in this great position and ability to be fortunate to be in a position to give, you should be thankful and show Hashem your gratefulness by bestowing good upon others. So it says, a person who has compassion upon others will be shown compassion by Shemaim, as stated in Shabbat 151b, Mida Keneget Mida. So it says, however, the guest must also not be overburdensome on the community, and he should not ask in a demanding way. Rather, the poor man should be politely petition and should graciously accept whatever he is given, whether it's a lot or a little. And he should bless the congregation, not make any controversy, nor prosecute any claim, has v'shalom. Rather, he must pray to the one who possesses wealth and property that he should put in their hearts the willingness to give charitably to him, or that he send his well-being from a different source. So for God has many messengers, and from his hand is everything. And God gives grace and honor. And he will not withhold good from those who walk wholeheartedly with him. So again, I think the advice here from Rav Papo alav shalom is a great one. He's reminding us that everything is coming from Hashem. It is Hashem alone who can open the hearts of our, gracious donors to give in a way that is most charitable. But if they do not, for whatever reason, that too is coming from Hashem. So don't make any controversy with that person. Don't make any controversy. And even if for whatever reason someone has not given in the way that Hashem would have liked, that is between him and Hashem. Hashem has many messengers, and what is coming to you will come to you. And that is all that we really have to worry about. So again, just bringing it back to that basic concept of emunah, everything coming from Hashem. And when we're walking this way, it becomes easier knowing that even if we're unhappy with a situation, we already have a relationship with the one who has brought it all about to begin with. So that's it for today. And I'm hoping that everyone will be given the great zechus to be just like Avraham Avinu, to have a good consonance whenever they receive someone. But until then, that's it for today, and I hope we'll all be together again soon. B'ezrat Hashem.